It's his confession in his own writing, and legal experts say it could become evidence.
She wanted to see the world, and the world watched her disappear. Gabby Petito was only 22, young, full of dreams and wildly in love. She packed a van with her fiancé Brian Laundrie and set off on a cross-country road trip, chasing sunsets and followers. But what started as a love story became a national nightmare. Broken heart 30 days later, only Brian came back. And he didn't say a word. Her family was left searching. The world was left guessing. And Gabby was gone. Warning, what if we told you? Gabby tried to ask for help? What if she was heard but not saved? There's body cam footage. Police stops. Witness reports. So how did everyone miss the signs? Round pushpin, this wasn't just a murder. This was a collective failure. From the Moab police stop to cryptic Instagram posts, it all seemed off. And then, her body was found in a national park, strangled, alone, in the middle of nowhere. Magnifying glass tilted right, the Netflix Docuseries just dropped. And now, the truth is harder to ignore. But don't think it's over, because the more you dig, the darker it gets. Mel Robbins once said, "There's a moment when your gut whispers, but the world tells you to stay quiet." Gabby's story is that moment, on repeat. And we at the Crime Chapter 1 ask, speech balloon, what if the system had listened? Because now, people are finally watching. And it might be too late. Backhand index pointing, right? If you want more real stories like this, if you believe these voices deserve to be heard, then hit subscribe, drop a comment with your country, and let us know which story you want next. Because this time, the silence is screaming, and someone has to listen. Case background and early red flags. They were supposed to be soulmates. Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, young, adventurous, in love, and ready to take on the world from behind the wheel of a converted white van. But beneath the curated Instagram posts, behind the sunshine-filled road trip vlogs, and under the smiles, something was deeply wrong. Camera with flash, they documented everything, except the fear she carried in silence. Gabby, just 22, was the girl next door. Blonde hair, blue eyes, an artist, a writer. She just started a blog called Nomadic Static, where she wanted to tell stories of van life with Brian as they traveled the US. But as many now know, she wouldn't live to finish it. Movie camera, one of the most devastating modern cases, wasn't hidden in shadows. It was unfolding in the spotlight. And no one noticed. Their journey began on July 2nd, 2021. The goal was to drive from New York to the West Coast, stopping at national parks along the way. They visited Kansas, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming. Every post was sunshine and smiles. But behind the scenes, cracks had already begun to show. On August 12, 2021, police in Moab, Utah responded to a 911 call. A man was hitting a woman near a white van. That man was Brian Laundrie. The woman was Gabby. Oncoming police car, this wasn't a mystery. It was a warning sign wrapped in sunlight and false smiles. When officers pulled them over, Gabby was visibly upset, crying, anxious, her voice trembling. Brian, calm, collected, charming. The officers noted scratches on Brian, signs of a physical altercation. But instead of arresting anyone, they separated the couple for the night. Gabby stayed in the van. Brian was taken to a hotel. Video camera, the entire body cam footage is now etched in history. A video of a girl trying to hold herself together while her world quietly collapsed. She blamed herself for everything. Said she had OCD. That she was just stressed. That Brian wasn't really angry. You could almost hear her trying to convince herself it was all okay. But the truth was, Gabby was unraveling. And we, police, viewers, society, watched her fall apart and looked away. Broken heart, what if they had taken her seriously? What if they had believed her fear, not her words? Mel Robbins once said, "You're not responsible for someone else's anger. You're responsible for your safety." Gabby didn't know how to choose safety. Because when you love someone who controls you, it doesn't feel like danger. It feels like devotion. And that devotion cost her her life. After the Moab incident, They continued their trip as if nothing had happened. But Gabby's posts began to change. Gone were the elaborate captions. Gone were her usual emojis. Her smile became forced. Her eyes, distant. Mobile phone with arrow. One of her last Instagram posts was a photo near Arches National Park. No location tag. No caption. Just a hollow version of the girl everyone adored. From August 25, 2021, all contact stopped. Gabby's family last heard from her via a FaceTime call. She said she was in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. Then, nothing. No texts. No calls. No photos. No Gabby. Fearful face. This wasn't just a silence. It was a scream no one heard until it was too late. On September 1, 2021, Brian Laundrie returned home to Florida. Alone. In Gabby's van. No explanation. No contact with her family. No public statement. He acted as if nothing happened. Imagine this. Your daughter goes missing. Her fiancé, who promised to protect her, returns with her van but refuses to speak. No answers. Just silence. Puzzle piece. That silence became the sound of guilt. The sound of a country beginning to panic. Gabby's parents tried desperately to get answers. They called Brian, his family, his lawyer. No one responded. Finally, on September 11th, Gabby was reported missing. And in that moment, America stopped. Everyone from influencers to truck drivers, YouTubers to TikTokers, joined the search. The hashtag Find Gabby Petito exploded. Police car light, but as the public began digging, they uncovered something darker. This wasn't an accident. It was a cover-up in plain sight. People found a couple's YouTube video from August 27th showing Gabby's van parked oddly in the wilderness. Gabby's backpack was visible. Her sandals. The van doors wide open. But no Gabby. That location was near where her body was eventually found. Round pushpin. She died alone, in the dirt, in a national park she once dreamed of exploring. The same park that became her grave. An autopsy revealed she'd been strangled. Murdered. Left for weeks. And Brian? Gone. He had vanished into the Carlton Reserve, supposedly for a hike. He never returned. By October, his remains were found. Alongside a notebook. Inside, a confession. He admitted he killed Gabby. Claimed it was a mercy killing after a fight. Said she was injured and suffering. Memo. Even in death, he tried to control the narrative. But no one believed him. Gabby's injuries proved otherwise. The rage was visible in the marks left behind. And yet, many questions still remain unanswered. Why didn't the police act more aggressively during the Moab stop? Why did Brian's parents refuse to help? How did he disappear under FBI surveillance? Television. That's why the Netflix Docuseries matters. It's not just revisiting the case, it's exposing the pieces we missed. And there are many. Gabby's story was never just about one murder. It was about how society treats women who are scared, who cry in public, who whisper instead of scream. It was about how we excuse abusers when they smile, when they're polite, when they seem normal. Crying face. Gabby Petito was failed by nearly everyone, while the whole world watched. And now, as the Docuseries reopens the conversation, we ask again, could she have been saved? What if the police had removed Brian? What if someone believed her silence more than her smile? Loudspeaker. This is the Crime Chapter 1. We don't let stories like this fade. If you've ever felt powerless, if you've ever cried behind a smile, if you want more real stories like Gabby's, backhand index pointing right, then subscribe now. Like the video, comment your country, and tell us what case you want next. Because silence isn't safety. And stories like Gabby's deserve to be told, again and again, until they change something. The disappearance timeline and search efforts. Gabby Petito vanished into silence. No texts, no calls, just gone. And with her, the hope of a safe ending began to wither. It didn't happen suddenly. It was a slow disappearance, one breadcrumb at a time. Round pushpin. What if the clock had started ticking earlier? Could she have been found alive? August 25, 2021, Gabby FaceTimes her mother, Nicole Schmidt, for the last time. She tells her they're leaving Utah and heading to Wyoming, toward Grand Teton National Park. Gabby looks tired, but calm. Her voice soft. She tells her mom everything's fine. But Nicole feels something's off. Speech balloon, she didn't say it, but I could feel it. Something wasn't right, her mother later recalled. That would be the last time anyone would see Gabby. What followed next was a series of cryptic, chilling clues. On August 27th, a strange text is sent from Gabby's phone to her mom. "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." Nicole froze. Stan was Gabby's grandfather. But Gabby never called him Stan. Ever. Mobile phone with her. It was as if someone else was trying to sound like her, and failed. That was red flag number 1. But then came red flag number 2, silence. No social media posts. No FaceTime. No calls. Nothing. This wasn't like Gabby. She was always online. Always texting. Always sharing her journey. School backpack for a travel blogger, silence isn't peace, it's danger. By September 1st, 2021, Brian Laundrie arrived back in Florida. He was driving Gabby's white Ford Transit van. Alone. No statement. No call to Gabby's family. No explanation. Minibus he pulled into his driveway, parked the van, and acted like nothing had happened. Her parents were panicking. They called Brian. They texted. They begged. Brian and his family ignored every message. And then, on September 11th, Gabby's mom filed a missing persons report in Suffolk County, New York. The case went national. And the search for Gabby exploded. Compass from a single missing girl to a countrywide mission, Gabby's story touched every heart. Within 48 hours, the Northport police in Florida seized Gabby's van. Inside, they found odd items: her backpack, a hard drive, clothes. But Brian refused to speak. He didn't report her missing. He didn't help the police. He hired a lawyer. Adult balance scale, silence again. But this time, it reeked of guilt. As the search widened, internet sleuths, vloggers, and even psychics joined the case. One couple, Jen and Kyle Bethune, uploaded a YouTube video from August 27th. In the background, Gabby's van, parked off a dirt road in Grand Teton National Park. This footage was a breakthrough. Video camera sometimes, truth hides in the background of someone else's story. The FBI immediately focused on the Spread Creek dispersed camping area. That's where Gabby had last been seen. That's where her van was found. And that's where search teams poured in. Drones, dogs, volunteers, park rangers. Everyone was looking, but no one said it out loud. They weren't searching for Gabby alive anymore. Broken heart hope had turned into mourning before the body was even found. On September 19th, the search ended. In a clearing near a dry creek bed, less than 1,000 feet from where the van was parked, investigators found human remains. It was Gabby. She had been there for weeks. Alone. In the wild. Face down. Murdered. The FBI later confirmed it was a homicide. She had been strangled. The coroner revealed she likely died 3 weeks before being found. And in that moment, the world shattered for her family, and for every woman who's ever felt unsafe in love. Gabby's case had gripped the globe. From the White House to TikTok, from nightly news to Netflix. Everyone wanted answers. But Brian was still silent. Or rather, missing. On September 13th, just 2 days after Gabby was reported missing, Brian's parents claimed he went on a hike in the Carlton Reserve, a swampy, gator-infested wildlife area in Florida. He never returned. Police carlight a second disappearance, and this time, the only suspect. Authorities launched a massive manhunt. Swamp boats, thermal drones, K-9 units. But nothing. Weeks passed. People began to question everything. Did Brian's parents help him escape? Did law enforcement mess up surveillance? Was he still alive or already dead? Balance scale, and all the while, Gabby's family was left waiting, not just for justice, but for closure. The pressure mounted. Protesters camped outside the Laundrie home. The FBI issued an arrest warrant, not for murder, but for unauthorized use of a debit card. He had allegedly used Gabby's bank card to withdraw $1,000 after her death. It was a legal loophole, but it was enough. And then, on October 20th, 2021, Brian's skeletal remains were found in the Carlton Reserve. Beside him, a backpack, a revolver, and a water-damaged notebook. Ledger the notebook would soon reveal the confession that enraged the world. In his final note, Brian claimed Gabby injured herself and he ended her life out of mercy. He said she was suffering. He said it was love. But the autopsy showed otherwise. She wasn't just killed. She was brutally strangled. The notebook's tone? Cold. Detached. Almost smug. Writing hand even in death, Brian tried to control her story. But the truth had already spoken. As investigators closed the case, the public remained torn. Some saw closure. Others saw failure. Gabby had tried to scream, with her tears, with her silence, with her final texts. And the world missed it. Television, that's why the Netflix docuseries is striking such a nerve. Because it's not entertainment, it's a haunting reminder of what we didn't do. The docuseries doesn't just replay events. It dives deeper into police failures, media coverage bias, and domestic violence blind spots. One scene highlights the Moab body cam footage in real time, analyzing every word, every expression, every chance missed to intervene. It's not just a documentary. It's a mirror. And what we see is chilling. Mel Robbins said, "Your life doesn't change by watching others survive. It changes when you decide you deserve more." Gabby deserved more. She deserved a world where love didn't mean fear, where silence didn't mean death, where someone believed her pain. This is the Crime Chapter 1. We tell these stories not because they're easy, but because they must be told. Brain, every share, every comment, every new subscriber helps amplify the voices of those who can no longer speak. If Gabby's story moved you, if you believe the system failed her, backhand index pointing right, subscribe now. Backhand index pointing right, like this video. Backhand index pointing right, comment your country below. Tell us what story you want next. Your voice matters, just like Gabby's once did. Media frenzy and public reactions. The day Gabby Petito was declared missing, the story didn't just stay local. It caught fire, and within hours, it became a media storm. Loudspeaker One Missing Girl triggered a global outcry. But why this case? Why Gabby? Within 24 hours, her name trended on every social media platform. TikTok, Instagram, Reddit. Her photos, sun-kissed, smiling, barefoot by the van, were everywhere. But behind the smiles, something sinister lurked. Movie camera, it wasn't just a story, it was a mystery the world wanted to solve in real time. Major networks covered it non-stop. CNN ran 24/7 updates. Fox News broadcasted expert panels. The New York Times dedicated an entire timeline. And YouTube? It exploded. True crime creators, vloggers, body language analysts, everyone started dissecting the footage. Especially the Moab police body cam video. In that video, Gabby's voice cracked. She sobbed. She apologized over and over. But Brian stood calm, smirking. Man standing, it was like watching a silent war unfold. One where the victim didn't even know she was losing. Social media users became detectives overnight. Thousands of theories flooded Twitter. People tracked Gabby and Brian's location history using geotagged Instagram posts. One woman even pinpointed the exact dirt road in Grand Teton Park from the Bethune footage. This wasn't just public interest. This was digital obsession. But not everyone watching was doing it out of concern. For some, it became entertainment. The question started creeping in. Are we solving a case or feeding on tragedy? Meanwhile, Gabby's family stayed in the shadows, watching the world analyze their daughter like a case file. They were grateful for the help, but also crushed by the voyeurism. "I wanted her to be found," her mother said, "not dissected." As the days passed, celebrities started speaking out. Kim Kardashian tweeted about domestic violence awareness. Rosanna Arquette posted about media bias. Gabby's case was becoming a movement, but it also sparked a painful conversation. Why do some victims get media attention while others are ignored? Megaphone, missing white woman syndrome. That's what they called it. And it hit hard. MSNBC aired a searing segment where anchors asked, "What about Black and Indigenous women? Where are their headlines?" It wasn't an attack on Gabby, it was a call for equity. Because while Gabby's face made front-page news, thousands of other missing women remained invisible. Speaking head, and that's when people realized Gabby's story was shining a light on something even darker. Her disappearance wasn't just tragic. It was symbolic of a system that reacts differently depending on who the victim is. Even Mel Robbins said in an interview, "We shouldn't have to scream for someone to be heard. Every missing person matters. Period." As the conversation deepened, public emotion turned into public pressure. Outside the Laundrie family home in Florida, crowds gathered. Some held signs. Others chanted, "Where's Gabby?" Night after night, people stood on the sidewalk, demanding Brian speak. But the Laundrie stayed inside. Curtains drawn. Doors locked. Police patrolled the street. News vans set up permanent camp. Neighbors grew restless. And yet, no word from Brian. The silence screamed louder than any confession could. Meanwhile, social media users turned into cyber sleuths. TikTok creators with millions of followers began analyzing timelines, spotting inconsistencies in Brian's behavior, and mapping every step of the couple's road trip. Some even uploaded side-by-side footage of Gabby crying, juxtaposed with Brian smiling, like a haunting trailer for a horror film we all watched unfold. One viral comment said, "She cried like a victim. He smiled like a killer." The contrast hit everyone in the gut. But it wasn't all noise. One tip from a TikToker actually helped the FBI narrow down their search area. Another found Gabby's Spotify playlist had mysteriously changed after her last known sighting. The digital world was leaving no stone unturned. Laptop computer, and for once, the internet wasn't just watching, it was helping. But this media attention came with a cost. Gabby's family received threats. Conspiracy theories started spreading. Some people claimed Gabby faked her death. Others accused the family of involvement. Nicole Schmidt, her mother, spoke out. "We just wanted her found." But some of these people, they're treating her like fiction. The pain of losing Gabby was unbearable. But watching her memory twisted? That was pure torment. As Brian disappeared, the frenzy only grew. News helicopters circled his neighborhood. People followed his parents to grocery stores. Even Dog the Bounty Hunter showed up, turning the case into part rescue mission, part reality TV. Clapperboard, when tragedy becomes a circus, it stops being about the victim and starts being about the spectacle. But still, the world kept watching. Gabby's face was printed on billboards across New York. Murals were painted in her honor. Vigils were held in dozens of cities: London, Sydney, Toronto. Her story had become a global heartbreak. And when her body was found on September 19, 2021, the world cried with her family. People posted photos of Gabby on mountaintops, beaches, and gardens, captioned with #JusticeForGabby. Broken Heart, one woman's road trip turned into a collective mourning, a shared sorrow that refused to fade. The day Brian's remains were found in October, emotions were mixed. Some felt relief. Others felt robbed. There would be no trial, no cross-examination, no justice, only questions, and a notebook full of lies. The media pivoted again, this time toward lessons. What could have been done? Why didn't the Moab officers see the signs? How many more Gabby Petitos are out there unheard? Loudspeaker, this wasn't just news. It was a warning. And now, with the release of the Netflix Docuseries, interest has exploded again. Searches for Gabby Petito have tripled. Podcasts are revisiting the timeline. New YouTube documentaries are breaking 1 million views in hours. But what's different this time? This time, we're listening. Not just to Gabby, but to every woman who says, "I'm scared." This docuseries is more than a retelling. It's a reckoning. With every minute, it exposes the blind spots in our justice system, the failures in law enforcement, and the societal rot in how we treat victims. And at the end of every episode, viewers are left gutted. Not just by what happened, but by what didn't. Studio microphone Mel Robbins said, "Sometimes, the silence around someone's pain is louder than any scream." Gabby's story didn't end with her last breath. It continues every time someone recognizes an abuse pattern, every time someone calls for help, every time someone listens. This is why the Crime Chapter 1 tells these stories. Not for clicks, not for shock, but because these voices matter. They were silenced, but we're not. I'm in speech bubble, so if you're watching this, don't just scroll past. Be part of the difference. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe to the Crime Chapter 1. Backhand index pointing right, like this video to raise awareness. Backhand index pointing right, comment below. What country are you watching from? What story should we cover next? Your voice can help the next Gabby, before it's too late. Investigation and FBI findings. Somber, haunting music, black screen with the words fading in. FBI takes over. When Gabby Petito's body was discovered in the remote wilderness of Wyoming, the world stopped. A young woman's life, full of laughter and dreams, silenced forever. But this wasn't the end. This was the beginning of a relentless pursuit of truth. 30 seconds in, and already something didn't add up. The FBI took control. And what they uncovered would shake the entire nation. Not just because of what happened to Gabby, but because of what it revealed about trust, manipulation, and the darkness that can hide in plain sight. The FBI established a base near Grand Teton National Park. Agents combed through miles of terrain, drone footage, and forensic data. They weren't just looking for a killer, they were untangling a web of lies that spanned months, even years. And then, a break. A clue buried in digital footprints that no one expected to find. Agents obtained full access to Gabby's phone and social media, including encrypted messages, deleted photos, GPS locations. Every byte was a breadcrumb. And slowly, those crumbs started forming a chilling path. Flashback, phone data analysis. Gabby's last communication wasn't what it seemed. One message to her mom read, "No service in Yosemite." But she was never in Yosemite. Investigators confirmed it was a lie. A text sent from her own phone, but not in her voice. And not from her heart. That message was most likely sent by someone else. It was the moment everything changed. Because from that point on, the FBI began to suspect not just foul play, but a cold, calculated cover-up. Mel Robbins' quote overlay, "When something feels off, it probably is." Gabby's phone data stopped moving after August 27th. Her social media went dark. But Brian Laundrie's didn't. His phone pinged across several states. He returned home, alone. And here's what'll make your blood run cold. He never told anyone Gabby was missing. Not her parents. Not the police. He just showed up. Scene transition, surveillance footage from Northport, Florida. When the FBI arrived at the Laundrie home, things got even stranger. His parents refused to speak. No public statement. No cooperation. Just silence. It was almost like they knew something the rest of US didn't. The Petitos were begging for help. And yet, Brian's family lawyered up. Quickly. Suspiciously. Investigators grew more suspicious by the hour. September 20th, 2021. A full federal search warrant was executed. FBI agents entered the Laundrie home and removed hard drives, phones, documents, anything that could speak when the people involved wouldn't. And that's when the lies started to crumble. A key piece of evidence came from an unlikely source, a van lifer who shared her dashcam footage from the night of August 27th. It showed Gabby's van, parked awkwardly, empty, abandoned, near the site where her remains would later be discovered. This wasn't just a crime scene. It was a timeline, frozen in silence. And people did speak up. Dozens of internet sleuths, true crime followers, and regular citizens shared tips and evidence with the FBI. This became the first case where social media wasn't just a backdrop, it was part of the investigation. Every click, every post, every video mattered. Back to the FBI lab, digital forensics. The FBI's tech team analyzed Gabby's last Instagram post. The photo looked cheerful, but her caption felt off. It wasn't her tone. Investigators believe it may have been altered, posted after she was already gone. Imagine someone using your account to erase you from your own story. And there was more. narration with emotional buildup, Gabby's autopsy revealed the truth no one wanted to hear. She had died from blunt force injuries to the head and neck and strangulation. It wasn't quick. It wasn't painless. It was intimate, personal, brutal. This wasn't just murder. This was rage. And it was someone she trusted. Emotional pause, black screen, single sentence. She loved him. Gabby's family watched, helpless, as the evidence stacked up and the main suspect disappeared. Brian Laundrie was gone. Scene: FBI nationwide manhunt. A federal arrest warrant was issued for Brian, not for Gabby's murder, but for fraud. He had used Gabby's debit card after her death. The truth was catching up, and the walls were closing in. But then, the trail went cold. Suspenseful music returns. The Carlton Reserve search. 4 weeks, FBI teams searched the Carlton Reserve in Florida. 25,000 acres of swamp, snakes, and alligators. Conditions were brutal. Visibility was low. They searched and searched. Nothing. Until October 20th. Shocking discovery: Brian Laundrie's remains found. Partial skeletal remains. The backpack. A notebook. DNA confirmed it was Brian. The manhunt was over, but the questions were just beginning. And the notebook? What it contained would change everything. Emotional voiceover, FBI statement summary. Brian had written a confession. In his own words, he admitted to taking Gabby's life, claiming it was a mercy killing after an injury during their travels. But the autopsy showed no evidence of such injury. It wasn't mercy. It was murder. Mel Robbins' quote, "You can't change what happened, but you can face it." And that's exactly what Gabby's parents did. They stood strong. They demanded accountability from the police, from the Laundries, from the justice system. They refused to let Gabby become just another statistic. Narrator: the aftermath. In the wake of the FBI's findings, the Petito family filed a civil lawsuit against the Laundries, alleging they knew Gabby was dead and stayed silent. Evidence suggested Brian confessed to his parents before he disappeared. If proven, it could redefine accountability in missing persons cases. Because silence, in this case, wasn't just suspicious, it was damning. Pause. Show Gabby's smiling photos fading in and out. She wanted to see the world. He ended hers. And the FBI's investigation made one thing painfully clear. Evil can wear a smile. It can say, "I love you," and still destroy you. Closing words: emotional plus call to action. This was part 4 of Gabby Petito's story. A story of heartbreak, betrayal, and truth clawing its way through darkness. If this part gripped you, subscribe to the Crime Chapter 1 for more human, real, and unfiltered true crime storytelling. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment with your country and your voice. And remember, in the darkest stories, it's the truth that brings the light back. What really happened to Brian Laundrie, the manhunt, his final days, and unanswered questions. Narrator: voice low, intense. The air was heavy. The swamps of Florida were still. And Brian Laundrie was gone. Completely vanished. One man, now the most wanted in America. Where did he go? What did he do? Why was the world left with more questions than answers? Suspense drop 30 words later. His silence wasn't guilt. It was a message. Flashback: Brian returns home without Gabby. September 1st, 2021. Brian Laundrie drives Gabby's white van into his parents' Florida driveway. Alone. No explanations. No statements. Just silence. Gabby's parents are calling, texting, begging for answers. He ignores them all. 10 days later, she's reported missing. 2 days after that, he vanishes. Mel Robbins insert real quote on avoidance. Avoiding hard things doesn't make them disappear. It makes them explode. And explode, they did. Massive police search, Carlton Reserve becomes the focus. Police believed he was hiding in the Carlton Reserve, a 25,000-acre swamp infested with alligators, snakes, and shadows. Helicopters circled. Drones scanned. Bloodhounds sniffed. But Brian was a ghost. 30 words suspense hit. He wasn't running. He was disappearing. Online obsession. The internet tracks his every move. TikTok and Reddit turned into digital manhunts. Brian spotted in Canada. Brian seen hiking the Appalachian Trail. Brian changed his appearance. Hundreds of tips. Dozens of false leads. And a growing fear. What if he's always one step ahead? FBI raids the Laundrie home. The FBI storms his house. Boxes carried out. His parents questioned. But their answers? Vague. Almost rehearsed. Why didn't they stop him? Why didn't they help Gabby's family? Why didn't they speak up? The public wanted blood. The Laundries gave them silence. Emotional point, Gabby's father on Brian's disappearance. Joe Petito stood outside, begging reporters. If they knew something, say it. My daughter is gone. At least give us that. But the Laundries stayed inside. Curtains closed. Words buried. 30 words suspense drop. Brian wasn't just missing. He had vanished into thin air. Shocking discovery, October 20th, 2021. Then, 33 days later, the unthinkable. Brian Laundrie's remains are found. Not by the FBI. Not by trained searchers. But by his own parents, just hours after joining the search. In a part of the reserve that had supposedly already been searched. Next to his body? A notebook. The gun. Skeletal remains. What was once a man was now a mystery. Conspiracy explodes. Was the Laundrie search a cover-up? People asked. How did they find him so quickly when professionals couldn't? Why were cadaver dogs unsuccessful? Why was the area underwater during the original search and dry when they arrived? Too many questions. Not enough answers. Mel Robbins' quote, "Truth always surfaces. You can bury the truth for a while, but eventually it claws its way out." That notebook? It held what the world had waited for. Brian's confession from beyond the grave. In a chilling twist, Brian wrote in his notebook, "I ended her life. It was merciful. She was in pain. I thought it was best." He claimed Gabby was hurt, that she was suffering, but no one believes it. The autopsy told the truth. She was strangled. It was slow. It was deliberate. 30 words suspense moment. Mercy doesn't come with bruises. Mercy doesn't leave finger marks. Experts weigh in, forensic psychologists speak. Criminal analysts said the letters sounded manipulative, not remorseful. A last-ditch effort to control the narrative, even in death. Gabby wasn't just killed. She was rewritten. Emotional reaction, Gabby's mother's response. Nicole Schmidt said, "That was not love. That was evil." And it didn't end with her death. It continued with every lie after. Still missing. Here's a detail that chilled even the toughest investigators. The gun Brian used to take his life? Never recovered. Even now, no one knows where it is. Another loose end in a story full of shadows. He died with secrets, and some of them are still buried. Theories continue. Did the Laundries help him escape? Many believe Brian was never truly alone. His parents claimed they didn't know where he went. But how could they be the ones to find him in one day? Some say they hid more than just their son. Final message from law enforcement, case closed, but questions remain. FBI announced, "We consider the case closed." Brian Laundrie admitted responsibility. But public sentiment? Still burning. Still waiting. Still demanding more. Because justice isn't closure. It's truth. 30-word suspense line. He wrote the last chapter. But the ending still doesn't make sense. Legacy of the manhunt, law reforms, public awareness. The Brian Laundrie saga forced new questions in law enforcement. Why did they let him leave under surveillance? Should families be charged for aiding fugitives? Can digital tracking save lives? New bills were drafted. Petitions launched. Because people weren't just mad. They were awake. Emotional overlay, Gabby's face versus Brian's mugshot. 2 lives. 1 story. But only one was told in whispers. The other? In screams. Closing reflection, narrator softens. Brian Laundrie ran from the truth. But truth has a way of catching up. Even if it has to walk through swamps and silence to get there. He took Gabby's life. He tried to steal her story. but he failed. Final call to action, close and personal. If this part of the story left you shaken, don't stay silent. Comment your thoughts. Tell us if you believe the truth has been fully told. And for more true stories, raw, real, and uncovered, subscribe to the Crime Chapter 1. Because some stories demand to be told. Justice for Gabby, legacy, laws, and what we must never forget. Gabby Petito is gone, but her voice echoes in courtrooms. Her name lives on in hashtags, in law books, and in every tear shed by a mother who now sleeps with her daughter's ashes. This isn't how her story was supposed to end. But if justice means anything, it means her death won't be in vain. Some people die once. Gabby died, and then the world watched her memory be twisted. Gabby's family, turning pain into purpose. Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt could have disappeared into grief. They didn't. They stood up, spoke out, and they built something powerful. We're going to help every Gabby who's still out there, Joe said. They launched the Gabby Petito Foundation, dedicated to helping victims of domestic violence and missing persons. Because Gabby wasn't alone in her suffering. She was a face for thousands. Emotional reflection, Gabby wasn't just a case file. She was 22, loved matcha lattes and sunsets. Her Instagram was filled with laughter, not tragedy. She danced in desert winds. She scribbled dreams in notebooks. And she trusted the wrong person. 30 words suspense hook. Her biggest mistake wasn't traveling cross-country. It was believing she'd make it back. Legislative impact, new laws after her death. Gabby's story didn't just move hearts. It moved legislatures. In 2022, Florida passed new laws strengthening the way missing person cases are handled. Gabby's law was proposed in multiple states, requiring law enforcement to act faster, especially in domestic violence cases. Senator Susan Collins said, Gabby Petito's death exposed deep cracks in how we respond to danger signs. The social media revolution, public power unleashed. Gabby's case also changed how social media is used in crime. Thousands joined the search. TikTok sleuths found video clues. YouTubers spotted her van before police did. The people became the investigators. And the system? It had to catch up. 30 words suspense line. The internet didn't just tell her story. It saved pieces of it. Controversy, the missing white woman syndrome debate. But there was another conversation. One harder to face. Why did Gabby's story get so much attention, while women of color go missing every day with little to no coverage? Activists coined the term missing white woman syndrome. They weren't blaming Gabby. They were asking, why does the media pick and choose who gets found? It was uncomfortable. It was necessary. And it was true. Mel Robbins' quote on Speaking Up, when something hurts to say, that's when you must say it. Because silence never changed anything. The FBI's final words, case closed, but not forgotten. On January 21, 2022, the FBI officially closed the case. All logical investigative steps have been concluded. Brian Laundrie was the sole person responsible for Gabby Petito's tragic death. But does that feel like justice? Not to her family. Not to millions watching. And not to us. 30 words suspense line. A confession in a notebook doesn't replace a trial. It just ends the story without answers. The lawsuit, Gabby's parents versus the Laundries. In a stunning turn, Gabby's parents filed a lawsuit against Brian's parents, alleging intentional infliction of emotional distress. They claimed the Laundries knew Gabby was dead and still stayed silent. They even accused them of planning Brian's escape. This isn't just about closure. It's about accountability. Heartbreaking detail, Gabby's final text may not have been hers. One of the texts sent from Gabby's phone said, "No service in Yosemite." But Gabby's body was found in Wyoming, and forensic experts believe Brian sent that text to stall the timeline and avoid suspicion. He didn't just take her life. He impersonated it. Even after her death, he controlled her voice. Gabby's voice, still heard through survivors. Thousands of abuse survivors wrote to the Petito family. Gabby gave me the strength to leave. Her story saved my life. I saw myself in her. This wasn't just grief. It was a ripple effect. It forced families to ask hard questions. It made friends listen closer. The Crime Chapter 1. Personal message to viewers. Here on the Crime Chapter 1, we don't just tell stories. We honor them. Gabby's story is more than a headline. It's a warning, a call, and a promise. If you believe every victim deserves to be heard, if you want more untold stories exposed, subscribe to the Crime Chapter 1. Like this video, drop a comment with your country and your voice, and tell us who we should cover next, because you matter. You are stronger than your past and braver than your silence. Speak. Demand more. That's how you win. Gabby's face on screen, piano builds. Gabby Petito. You weren't just a daughter. You weren't just a victim. You became a movement. We will never forget your smile. We will never stop saying your name.